so that you can hear that voice and that you can be directed. So, the first thing is, I want you to think about what is something that scares you or intimidates you. And it doesn't have to necessarily be towards this goal, but I want you guys, oh, that's a great analogy that I'm about to use. So, what is something that scares you or intimidates you? I'd like to get a couple ideas on the board if you guys are willing.
I think being vulnerable, like you just said, that's probably what's keeping me from some of my goals. As I looked at them, after you brought up being vulnerable, I looked at them and was like, yeah, that's there.
Being vulnerable is a very big one because we don't necessarily know what being vulnerable means. Like, we know that it's opening ourselves up and sharing stuff, but so here's a sort of pro tip, if you will. Our brain is really scared of the undefined things in our lives. And so if something is, if it's not written down, if it's not codified, if it's not defined, we freak out because our brain is like, the unknown. We can't handle the unknown. So once you start writing down these things we're afraid of, we start realizing what it is that's freaking us out. And our brain can go, oh, that's not that scary. I heard it defined on a podcast this week. It's why kids are afraid of the monster under the bed. Because they don't know what the monster under the bed looks like because it's dark. And so as soon as their parents come in, turn on the light, and they look under the bed, and they realize it's a bat, it's a ball, it's dirty underwear, whatever it is under the bed, it's not so scary anymore because you can see it. And so the very, 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 very first step that I don't even list is when you're feeling overwhelmed or scared or afraid, write down. Like, sit down and actually think about, what is this that's scaring me? What is it that I'm afraid of? So for the case of vulnerable, I would guess that a large part of we're afraid of being vulnerable because we're afraid of being rejected. Because that's ultimately what happened to me. I shared my inmost thoughts with 200 people, and it didn't bring lasting change. And so I was still alone. So we're afraid of rejection. We're afraid that we'll share too much, perhaps. What are other things that we might be afraid of in being vulnerable?
Being laughed at.
Being laughed at, yep. Or even worse, having them scurry away and laugh amongst themselves later, and you're just like, oh, I feel really
Becoming a scapegoat.
Oh, yeah.
That's another way, like getting blamed for everything.
Because if people don't like what we're sharing, then they want to blame us for stuff.
Sometimes it's hard to be different than everybody else. To feel like you're the odd man out, or I don't know, there's safety for a lot of people in numbers, and they don't want to be different or go against the norm.
Yeah.
Yep. Also, if we ever really want to like deep dive into this, define what the norm is. Because a very, very smart woman once told me, normal is only a setting on your washer. So it doesn't exist anywhere else. So we're afraid of the norm. But if you were to ever actually define what the norm is, you'd find out nobody can actually define it. We don't actually know what it is, other than this fear that someone's going to see that we're not the norm. Okay, so I really like this. So the very first step in all of this is to define what it is you're actually afraid of and why it is that it's controlling your life. So in my case, because we were looking at it this way, shoes are coming off. Looking at it in this way, I was afraid of being vulnerable because of the memory that I had about being vulnerable. I had proof that it didn't go well last time, so of course it wouldn't go well next time. So when you're facing these things that feel overwhelming, first define what they are. So I love this as a wonderful case in point. What is something else that we're afraid of? Not having a stand for our papers. That's one. Okay, trigger things.
Running out of money, or running out of energy, running out of resources.
I'm gonna say resources because I think that encapsulates the list
Yeah,
that you just
yeah.
shared with them. So, because everybody on the face of the planet is dealing with this or has dealt with this at some point. So the first technique that I want to teach you is called visualize. So right now when we think about running out of resources, I'm always afraid of running out of gas. I'm afraid that I'm going to run out of gas in some like desolate area and have to walk somewhere. Do I ever let my tank go below a quarter? No. Am I still afraid of this? Yes. Or I'm afraid that there's not going to be enough grocery money and I'm going to have to dip into savings to get groceries. Or there's a lot of fears that we either do deal with or have dealt with, and they feel something like this. We're right here, this tiny little figure, and this big, huge, scary, grumpy faced monster with sharp teeth. It's coming after us. It's chasing us down. Because things that, we get a God complex about things that scare us. I want you to think about, okay, maybe you guys don't have this, but that mean guy or that mean girl in high school that just never had anything nice to say to you or about you or anything. All of a sudden, this person became 10 feet tall and you avoided them wherever you saw them. You ran the other way because they just looked so big and so scary. And we let these things just get huge. So a fear of being vulnerable, a fear of running out of the resources you need, fear of a relationship, fear will never be good enough. Fear we will never be good enough gets really big really fast. And so as you write down what it is you're actually afraid of, you define the parameters of what you're afraid of. So instead of this really huge big thing, you actually go, you're scared, you're anxious, you're frustrated. And those are actually how big your monster is. Because once you actually know what it is you're dealing with, the human brain is incredibly capable of handling stuff. We are, the human beings, Homo sapiens, are amazing problem solvers. But we get so distracted by how big the problem is that we never give ourselves a chance to actually problem solve it. We never actually give ourselves the chance to work through what's there. So first, when your brain goes, big scary monster, you go back and you go, okay, what's actually scary? Yes?
I read a book about a lady who was so afraid her husband was going to divorce her, it was immobilizing her. And she finally realized, okay, if I make a plan, suppose he divorces me, then this happened, this happened, this happened. And she visualized this little plan, and then she could put it on the back shelf.
That's great.
Because it probably wasn't going to happen. And that was the other big important idea in her book, is most of the things that we're terribly afraid of don't actually end up happening. Or some modification comes in and there's a lot less scary when they do happen. And most of the really good things that we are sure it might happen, you know, someday I'll be famous, someday I'll make lots of money, someday this, most of those don't happen either. But the way to get, you know, onto making concrete goals that are doable today is to put the really emotional whatever into a plan, and then you can put it on the shelf.
I love that. And I'm so glad that you brought that up.
I'm an old lady, I'm 73, so I've read more things.
I believe it. Well, and that's how you learn stuff. You research and you learn stuff.
That's right.
I love it. Because you answered one of the things that you do. Your brain brings up all of this, oh no, that immobilizes you because you don't see a way through.
Yeah.
So once you actually go, okay, so what if he divorces me? What if I do run out of gas? What if I don't have enough money for my grocery bill this month? And you actually write out and plan out what you would do. Okay, so if I run out of gas, I'll keep a pair of tennis shoes in my trunk and I can walk somewhere. I'll make sure that my cell phone is already always charged, or I have a charger in the car. And then all of a sudden, am I really that afraid of it? No, because then I have a plan. And so a lot of the things in life, we shrink them down to size when we answer what could happen, and we say, okay, brain, this is what we're gonna do if this happens. Brilliant, I love that, thank you.
By the way, what's the name of this class that I just joined?
Winning Through Discouragement.
Oh, okay.
So we're talking about how when you're reaching for a goal, how a lot of stuff kind of comes up and stops you from that goal. And a lot of times, I thought it was interesting because you just said, the big scary stuff doesn't happen, but the really good stuff doesn't happen either.
Well, it doesn't happen in the way we visualize it.
Oh, yes, yes. And so for some people it just doesn't happen at all because they never write down the plan.
Yeah.
They run into discouragement, they run into this hard thing, and they bounce back. And they go, nope, I'm not gonna touch it, not gonna go there because that's hard. Instead of realizing that's the hard thing that is enlarging my capacity, that is creating for me what I want. I actually had an interesting experience with that this week. So I work at the university, and I was on leak patrol. I'm not exactly sure who decided to put lots of precious, very expensive materials in a basement under pipes that leak, but it happens. And so we do leak patrol to catch the leaks before they damage anything. And so I was walking leak patrol and kind of thinking about my goals and thinking about wanting to be a world-renowned coach and wanting to build my channel and these different things. And kind of trying to come to terms with the fact it's just gonna take a while. And a little voice tapped me on the shoulder. It was actually a metaphorical finger, if you will. But a little voice said, Allison, how do you think you're gonna get the stamina? How do you think you're gonna get the patience? How do you think you're gonna have the fortitude to be this coach when you have 52 people who wanna work with you in a month? How are you gonna be able to do that if you're not learning discipline now? How do you think you're going to build a huge channel with good content if you don't start now? In order for you to end up happy and in a good place with where you want to be, you have to fight the battle now to learn the things that are really going to benefit you later. And so I've been thinking a lot about that. And so that's why not only are these skills important, but they're necessary. Because whatever goal it is that you're striving for, whatever goal it is you're looking for, if you don't do the work now, you're never going to be equal to what you want. You're going to get there and you're still not going to be happy because your stress isn't going to go away. You're still not going to feel capable because you never built capacity. So this process is so important. So the first step is visualize your big scary monster and bring it down to size. Realize what it is that's actually there. Second, answer your what ifs. What if whatever happens? Okay, what if I run out of money? It happens that I have food storage in my closet and I would be eating tuna for 2 days, but I would still have food to eat. Okay, so then that's fear of running out of grocery money gone. So write it out, figure it out, and plan out what happens if the thing you're afraid of actually happens.